A book you cannot read changed the course of Western civilization. Cicero's Hortensius is completely lost, not a single complete copy survives. Yet this vanished dialogue converted the young Augustine to philosophy, and through Augustine reshaped Christianity itself. Marcus Tullius Cicero was Rome's greatest orator, its most famous lawyer, and its most passionate defender of the Republic. But he was also Rome's most important philosopher, not for originality, but for bringing Greek philosophy to the Latin world. Writing in the turbulent final years of the Republic, Cicero composed a series of philosophical dialogues that made Stoic, Epicurean, and academic thought accessible to Roman readers. The Hortensius, written around 45 BC after the death of his beloved daughter Tullia, was his protreptic, his exhortation to the philosophical life. The dialogue was modeled on Aristotle's Lost Protrepticus, itself an exhortation to philosophy. Cicero cast real Roman aristocrats as speakers. Quintus Hortensius, the rival orator who gave the work its name, Lucius Licinius Lucullus, the wealthy general, Quintus Lutatius Catulus, the cultivated senator, and Cicero himself. They debate whether philosophy is worth pursuing or whether the practical life of Roman politics is superior. Hortensius speaks first, defending the active life against the contemplative. Philosophy, he argues, is a Greek indulgence. Romans are men of action, they conquer nations, build roads, govern provinces. What use is abstract speculation when there are wars to win and laws to pass? The philosopher's life is a retreat from duty. True Roman virtue lies in the Senate, in the courts, on the battlefield, not in the lecture hall. Cicero demolishes this objection with devastating eloquence. Even those who dismiss philosophy, he argues, must philosophize to make their case, for the claim that philosophy is worthless is itself a philosophical claim. If we must philosophize, we must philosophize, and if we must not philosophize, we must philosophize. In any case, we must philosophize. This famous argument, preserved by Augustine, shows that the rejection of philosophy is self-refuting. The question is not whether to think, but how well. Cicero turns his fire on the Epicurean claim that pleasure is the highest good. If pleasure were our proper end, what would distinguish us from beasts? The pig wallowing in its trough experiences pleasure. The drunkard at his feast experiences pleasure. But no Roman worthy of the name would call this the good life. True happiness, the happiness of a rational being, must lie in the exercise of the mind, in the pursuit of truth, in wisdom itself. Nor is the good life found in wealth or public honor. Fortune gives and fortune takes away. Cicero knew this bitterly. He had seen his own political fortunes rise and collapse. Wealth is a means, never an end. Honor depends on the fickle judgment of the crowd. Only wisdom, possessed within the mind itself, is truly one's own, truly secure, and truly satisfying. Philosophy alone offers a good that fortune cannot remove. Cicero paints a luminous portrait of the philosophical life. Imagine, he says, that you could see the workings of the cosmos, the orbits of the planets, the causes of eclipses, the mathematical harmonies that govern nature. Would you not be struck with wonder? Would you not devote your life to understanding? The philosopher lives in a state of perpetual wonder, perpetual discovery. This is the life that is most truly human because it exercises our most distinctive faculty, reason. Cicero argues that philosophy is the only proper preparation for death. The person consumed by pleasure, wealth, and ambition is terrified of death because it takes away everything they value. But the philosopher has already learned to value what is eternal: truth, virtue, wisdom. Death holds no terror for one whose treasures are not of this world. This argument would echo powerfully through centuries of Christian reflection on mortality. Even if we cannot attain perfect knowledge, and Cicero, as an academic skeptic, doubted that we can, the pursuit of truth is itself the highest activity. The search for wisdom is better than any particular discovery because it exercises and elevates the mind continually. Philosophy is not a destination but a journey, and the journey itself is what makes us most fully human. In the year 373, a 19-year-old student of rhetoric in Carthage opened a copy of the Hortensius as part of his coursework. His name was Aurelius Augustinus, Augustine. In Confessions III 4, Augustine describes what happened next in words that still burn with intensity. "This book changed my feelings. It changed my prayers to you, O Lord. It gave me different purposes and desires. Every vain hope suddenly became worthless to me, and with an incredible burning in my heart, I desired the immortality of wisdom." Augustine was transformed. He had been pursuing rhetoric, the art of persuasion, for worldly success. The Hortensius turned him away from ambition and toward truth. "I was inflamed with a passionate zeal to love and seek and obtain and embrace and hold fast wisdom itself, whatever it might be." Note, not Christian wisdom, not any particular school, wisdom itself. Cicero's exhortation did exactly what it was designed to do. It set a brilliant young mind on fire with the love of philosophy, but Augustine found one fault in the Hortensius. The name of Christ was not in it. "This name, according to your mercy, Lord, this name of my Savior your Son, my infant heart had devoutly drunk in with my mother's milk and held deep within." Cicero pointed Augustine toward wisdom but could not point him toward Christ. The Hortensius began a journey that would take Augustine through Manichaeism, academic skepticism, and Neoplatonism before reaching its final destination in Christian faith. How did the Hortensius vanish? We know it circulated widely in the Roman world. Augustine read it in North Africa in the 4th century. Jerome quoted it. Lactantius cited it. But as the Roman world collapsed and Christian education replaced classical learning, pagan texts that seemed redundant were no longer copied. The Hortensius survived in fragments, mainly in Augustine's quotations, while the confessions that it inspired became one of the most read books in human history. The child destroyed the parent. From Augustine, Jerome, Lactantius, Nonius Marcellus, and other ancient authors, scholars have recovered approximately 60 fragments of the Hortensius. These fragments confirm the dialogue's core argument: that philosophy is superior to all other pursuits because it alone seeks truth for its own sake. They reveal Cicero's characteristic blend of Roman gravity and Greek intellectual sophistication, and they show why the work had such explosive power when it fell into Augustine's hands. The Hortensius influenced more than Augustine. Lactantius, the Christian Cicero of the early 4th century, drew on its arguments in the Divine Institutes. Jerome recommended Cicero's philosophical works to Christian readers. Ambrose of Milan shaped his own literary style on Cicero. Through these church fathers, the arguments of the Hortensius, detachment from worldly goods, the superiority of contemplation, the pursuit of an eternal good, entered the mainstream of Christian moral thought, often without attribution. The deepest irony of the Hortensius is theological. Augustine came to see Cicero's exhortation as a work of divine providence, God using a pagan text to begin the conversion of a soul destined to become the greatest theologian of the Latin West. This idea that pagan philosophy was a preparatio evangelica, a preparation for the gospel, became central to Christian intellectual life. Clement of Alexandria called Greek philosophy a schoolmaster to bring the Greeks to Christ. The Hortensius was, for Augustine, exactly that schoolmaster. A lost book remains one of the most important books in Western history. Not for what it said, we can only partially reconstruct that, but for what it did. It converted Augustine to the love of wisdom, and Augustine converted the Western world to Christianity. The Hortensius demonstrates a profound truth about intellectual history: influence does not require survival. A text can vanish utterly and still shape civilization through the minds it touched. Cicero wrote to exhort Romans to philosophy. He could not have imagined that his words would set in motion the intellectual transformation of Christendom.